in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou forced their way through COVID barriers in a fresh example of public anger over COVID curbs. Jim Lindsay of the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations says Beijing is between a rock and a hard place.
The Chinese are waiting around until they can develop their own vaccine, their own mRNA vaccine. I should note that they have been unwilling to take Western mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna. I imagine the Chinese state has a sufficient surveillance and coercive apparatus to make those shutdowns last a very long time. But Chinese citizens are like citizens everywhere else. They want to lead their own lives. Lockdowns are very, very hard to deal with. And there's going to be growing pressure on the Chinese government to find some way out of this cul-de-sac that they have put themselves in.
Some analysts expected restrictions to be loosened after President Xi secured a third term in power last month, but that has not happened. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, the United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president is unfit to serve. And Twitter boss Elon Musk is giving his staff an ultimatum to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
It's The Onion Radio News. A spokeswoman gives birth to a spokeschild. This is Doyle Redland reporting. Tacoma spokeswoman Tammy Barker became the proud mother of a bouncing baby spokeschild last night. According to spokespeople, Barker, a spokeswoman for a Tacoma-based pharmaceutical firm, the birthing process was a major success. Peter Wahlberg, spokesman for Tammy's husband Phil, had this to say.
At 9:17 p.m. last night, an 8.5-month-old spokes fetus was delivered alive and through the miracle of birth became a 7-pound, 6-ounce spokes child. Spokes father and spokes mother are doing fine.
Spokeswoman Barker is expected to be released from St. Robert's Hospital tomorrow. The spokeschild will remain in the hospital's media care unit for several weeks of training. Doyle Redland for The Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is The Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live on this live Wednesday edition of the program. You are invited to join us, 603-283-6160 if you would like to do that. Again, the number is 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
And Nikki.
And of course, Bonnie will be joining us soon. She's just stepped away doing something at the moment. She was working right before the show started, so she's got to come down from work and do all that great stuff. Anyway, one of the things that's constantly getting remarked on here in the studio is how loud I have my headphones turned up as I'm sitting here, right? And I'm sure you've heard it too, and you've thought about it, because they are significantly louder than everyone else. And it's because I'm hard of hearing. Right?
I think Captain's right up there with you.
That would make sense, right? Because I wasn't born hard of hearing. However, I have gone to a lot of rock concerts in my life, and I have played a lot of rock concerts.
That'll do it.
Yes, it very much will. Through most of my teenage and adult life, you know, my practice amplifier, the one that I used to practice with, just sitting at home, had 4 12-inch speakers in it, which is about twice the size of most amplifiers that people use when they actually go on a stage for a local show or a small gig or something like that. So these huge amplifiers that I would stand directly in front of, right, obviously did not do my hearing any favors. And of course, I was one of those, everyone's like, you should really wear headphones when you're standing in front of these 8 12-inch speakers and this 120-watt amplifier that's just blasting sound directly into your head.
Nah,
I'll be fine. On top of that, of course, there was the fact that headphones existed. And I was never a big fan of the earbuds, the one that goes inside your ear, because one, they don't cancel out as much as the outside sound, and they're uncomfortable. I've never found a pair that was genuinely comfortable. And I see people like Mark using them. Mark Edge, who is on the show all the time, a founder of the show as well. I don't understand how people use them. And he says, well, you just have to find the right size that fits you. And I'm like, I don't want to put that much effort into it when I can just throw on a pair of headphones that do exactly the same thing and that cancel the outside sounds and that don't feel like I have things plugged into my ears. All of these things, of course, cause me to be a little bit hard of hearing. And I'm not alone in this. More than 1 billion young people could be at risk of hearing loss, according to a new study.
From what?
Well,
like, I get what you have hearing loss from, but I'm assuming most young people aren't playing guitar with giant amplifiers.
Most young people are not doing that. However, they are using headphones and earbuds more so than I was. Like, I only used earbuds and headphones when I was like on the school bus or whatever. And I wanted to listen to music and I didn't want to bother everyone around me. But when I'm sitting at home or something like that, most people would, like, I have my Nintendo DS here. If they wanted to play it during the breaks, which is what I've been doing, they would have headphones on and they would throw their headphones on and listen to music. I just turned the sound off. Other people would have it on full blast with the headphones playing the sound directly into their ears, and this causes them to go hard of hearing and eventually have hearing problems. Welcome to the show, Bonnie.
Thank you. And I can confirm lots of people my age just have headphones in all the time, and I only do it when I don't want to disturb people around me as well. But if I just have the choice, like listen to a thing with headphones or listen to a thing just from the audio of my phone, I always choose the audio of my phone. I don't know why, but there's lots of people I know that just always have AirPods in all the time.
I see these people walking around and riding around on their bicycles and keying a whole lot.
That doesn't feel safe to me.
It doesn't feel safe. It feels stupid, and it feels like evolution should have taken out people who do this sort of thing long before they reach the age of adulthood.
You would think.
Well, our neighbor, he wears like full-on headphones that go over the ears while he skateboards in the middle of the road.
Which definitely isn't safe because he's almost been hit by cars before.
Yeah,
so
I hear
confirmed not safe.
I hear the cars honking at him all the time. And he just says, oh, I do it because it helps my faith in humanity because people don't hit me. And it's just like, well, what if they do? It's like, then your faith in humanity is gone, but so is your life or your legs or whatever.
Oh, man, that's so crazy.
Another person you're referring to, is that really the argument put forward? Is that, it makes him feel better about humanity when they don't run over him?
Yes, said that multiple times to me.
Like, that's a really low bar for humanity. Like, what makes me feel good about humanity is, like, if I go online and I see stories about people rescuing kittens or whatever, I'm like, humans are going to be okay, but
the thing is, like,
streets,
you didn't hit me with your car?
right.
Faith in humanity restored.
But the thing is, like, if someone hits him with their car, it's not going to be because they were like a rude person and wanted to. It's going to be because they looked away for a second, and too bad for him. He's out of this game of life.
Yeah, just receiving a text message or anything like that. And I've been guilty of this, and it only takes a fraction of a second. Like, to just look down at your phone to see who texted you or to change the song. Anything can happen in that fraction of a second.
Yep.
Someone could run across the street and they're dead.
That's how I totaled my car, not a person. Yeah. But I looked at my phone for just it felt like a second to turn Postmates on so I could start like Uber Eats, but it's Postmates. And I just all of a sudden hit this pole right off the side of the road because it was like I was turning. I knew I was turning, but I felt like I was turning hard enough, and I guess I just wasn't, and I went off the road. And it seriously felt like a second.
That's all it takes,
and
really.
I totaled my car because it hit that pole, and it broke my transmission or something that was too expensive. And my God, it was ridiculous.
I would be shocked if your eyes were off of the road for even a full second, right? This is why GPS can be so dangerous and why distracted driving is so dangerous. Just a fraction of a second is all it takes for a dog or something to run out in the road, and then you're slamming on your brakes or you're swerving to avoid hitting it, and as a result you run off the road or you hit a tree or you hit someone else. It's dangerous out there, and that's why I don't understand these people who walk around the city of Keene, which is a highly walkable city.
And people just jump out in front of your car here. It's crazy.
They're just they expect you to stop no matter what, and it's really dangerous and dumb.
What really bothers me about, I don't mind it because I'm used to it at this point. I know that these idiots are just going to walk out into the street and that it's my responsibility to not kill them, even though Evolution should, we should get rid of the traffic laws and let evolution happen here. I'm sorry if you jump in the way of a 4,000-pound death machine traveling at 40 miles an hour. Yeah. I'm sorry, you deserve to die.
Just relying on, well, technically, according to something written down somewhere, they're supposed to stop for me. Like, I just don't, if I'm the one walking, I do not rely on them to know that or be looking at the road. No. Like, when I'm driving, of course, I'm paying extra attention when I'm going down Main Street because I know that they'll do it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't make me annoyed when somebody is just, like, looking straight forward and just starts walking and I'm, like, really close to the crosswalk.
Well, and that's the thing, because even if I get hit by a car, even if it's their fault, I still got hit by a car. Like, it definitely still sucks more for me than it does for them.
Excellent points. And I don't mean to suggest that everyone who ever got hit by a car deserved to die. Yeah. Obviously, that's not what I meant. But these sorts of people that we're talking about who just jump into traffic or don't look to see if there's a car coming that even can feasibly stop in time. I mean, it's even worse when there's snow and ice on the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
Or it's like dark even.
Yes, and Main Street here in Keene is very well lit, but accidents happen, and if I'm driving at 30 miles per hour and it's night and you're wearing a black t-shirt and black jeans and there's ice on the ground and you're like, YOLO, I'm going to make it across the other side of the street, I'm sorry if you die. However, that's people walking around doing ridiculous things. Most of the people walking around Keene don't seem to have headphones and things like that. They at least try to be aware of their environment. And that's good, but it's estimated now that why would they share the number like this? Almost 1.5 billion adolescents and young adults worldwide could be at risk of hearing loss from exposure to unsafe listening practices. And I'm one of the worst about this. Even though I don't use headphones and earbuds all that often, when I do use them, that volume's cranked all the way up.
Me too. There's just something about deafening music in your ears that's just so great.
And it's supposedly addictive, right? But I
can see it being addictive because sometimes you think it's up high enough, and then it's like the next song's gonna be better than the last song, so you want it up higher, and sometimes it can't even get loud enough to feel like it's loud enough.
And they give you that little warning, this could damage your hearing. I'm like, yep, sure can. Turn it up. There's more on the way.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold bag. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to MyMagicMud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. MyMagicMud.com, code FTL.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio is great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. As always, you're invited to join us, 603-283-6160 if you want to do that. Again, that number is 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, it's Aria,
Bonnie,
and Nikki.
And we do have our own chat server that I would like to invite you to at chat.freetalklive.com. It's a matrix server, which means it functions and looks very similarly to Discord, except it's not controlled by a centralized corporation. We are the centralized corporation that controls it, and we do absolutely no moderating or administrating whatsoever, unless it's absolutely mandatory, like kicking out not trolls, but like obvious spammers and things like that. We do that.
We actually don't kick out trolls.
We do not kick out trolls. You're absolutely right. You can find it at chat.freetalklive.com if you want to sign up for it, because Discord, of course, kicked us off of their platform a very long time ago, coming up on 2 or 3 years at this point.
I think it was 2 years, because I remember you guys talking about it like it just happened when I first started listening in 2020.
Yeah, it was not terribly long ago, and I hate it because Discord, it's such a neat thing. And it functioned very well. It did what it was supposed to do. We had our own toxic user room where if you were toxic, instead of banning you or blocking you or whatever,
put them in a group chat together.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did.
That's hysterical. Oh my gosh.
And it worked beautifully, right? If you had to go looking for the toxic people if you wanted to find them. And it worked very, very well until someone got really upset one day and decided to report us to Discord. And of course, that's not the way you're supposed to handle these things according to Discord. You can't just segregate off the toxic people. You have to block them and keep them from saying horrific, messed up things on your server altogether. And that's not the way we do things. So, of course, they were like, yeah, you have this room here that's like filled with Nazis and racists and stuff. And we're like, well, yeah.
You're like, yeah, that's the little jail over there.
Like, they're the toxic ones. That's where we put them because they're toxic. And they're like, no, you have to kick them off your server. And we didn't do that. So they nuked our server.
That's so ridiculous.
It is. So we have our own server now at chat.freetalklive.com. Check it out. That's chat.freetalklive.com. Let's go to the phones. We have Major Payne on the line from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live. Are you with us? Oh, I got you muted. Go ahead, Major.
I can see why you guys can't get rid of the trolls. They're hard to find. They're always hiding under the bridge.
Yep, hiding underwater.
These are pretty open.
Remember the story of Billy Goat Gruff?
No.
The trolls lived under the bridge. Oh yeah, it's an old, very old children's book.
I remember that. Yeah, the troll under the bridge, and you had to give him like a quarter if you wanted to cross.
Well, I've heard that concept, but I didn't know it was from a specific story.
Yeah, didn't he like go get his bigger brother or something? He headbutted the troll off or something.
Yeah, there was 3 goats, and the first little one comes across, and the troll pops up and says, "Oh, I'm going to eat you." And the goat says, "Oh, wait for my brother. He's much bigger than I." So the troll, being greedy, licks his chops and goes back under the bridge. Then the second goat comes tropping across. He does the same thing, and the goat tells him the same thing. Well, then comes the big brother with a nice set of horns, and he butts the troll right into the river. So yeah.
Well, that's one way to handle the trolls. I suppose when it comes to that particular perspective, I'm the goat that keeps headbutting the trolls, but not in a way that kicks them off the bridge or anything like that. But well, I don't know. I did get one of them to quit the chat server. Of course, he came back.
He's back.
He came back the same day.
Well, his new account on Twitter is very nice now.
Okay.
He lives under the bridge. You're just putting him back in his place.
I suppose that's true.
Maybe he needed some time off and found God or something.
What, in the 5 hours that he wasn't on there?
No, his Twitter hiatus was actually way longer. Like, he quit being on Twitter, like, not long after Arya got him to quit the Matrix. Then he came back to Twitter.
I don't even know who this is.
And his name is Gay Treeville.
Oh.
So what's on your mind tonight, Major?
Well, that guy from the FTX crypto exchange there that dumped all these shenanigans.
Yeah, Bankman.
Bankman, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, that's as good as Bernie Madoff. You can't make this stuff up.
I've actually seen headlines suggesting that this is the worst of these sorts of things that we've seen since Bernie Madoff. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember, but wasn't Bernie Madoff one of the pyramid scheme people?
Yeah, he made off with people's money.
That's what I thought.
And the other one they're comparing it to is the Exxon fiasco.
Well, Bankman and FTX, despite all of their flaws, and I'm no defender of the guy. I think he's a jerk and he deserves the poverty and all of that he's heading toward. I don't think what he was doing was running a pyramid scheme. It seems like he was operating his crypto exchange as though it was a bank and loaning out people's money and things like that when it wasn't actually his money, and he was just hoping that they wouldn't perform
That's what
a run.
banks do?
Yes, and he was hoping they wouldn't perform a run on his exchange and attempt to withdraw all the money because obviously he wouldn't have it. And then they did, and he didn't have it.
He was doing more than that. I still don't think it was just a pyramid scheme. Even though I don't know a lot, I do know that he was also risking it, like the people's money in a way that like banks do, but way more risky. Like he was investing the other people's money that supposedly thought that they had it just in FTX. He was like investing it in things that were really risky and like lost a lot that way. And apparently he didn't own even one Bitcoin like a piece of a Bitcoin of the FTX.
He was the second largest donor to the Democratic Party.
Well, there's that
bought
too.
The whole party. And then he also contributed, I don't know if it was 50 million or 50 billion that he put in, but Fox News or Fox Radio, television, whatever, they got 4 or 5 million or billion, maybe so they wouldn't get sued over, the FX rights. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but they did a full-page expose on him shortly after that. So he bought the media, he bought the politicians. He's a dirty skunk.
He absolutely was. I mean, I don't know that he successfully bought them, but this is what rich people do. This is what corporations do. This is what shady people do. They give money to politicians and to political parties and to institutions, hoping that when the time comes, they will get some sort of perk or benefit from having done that. Like, oh yeah, I remember you. You're that guy who donated $10 million to my campaign. Yeah, we won't regulate this industry for you. We'll do what you want.
Clearly that didn't work for this guy, though.
Well, it did. He didn't get regulated. I mean, none of what's happening to him is a result of anything that politicians did. It's a result of his own wrongdoings and his own silly decisions. And obviously,
he got too audacious for his own good.
Well, I don't even know if they got audacious. He just made a series of stupid decisions, and he did everything that he said unregulated corporations in the cryptocurrency world would do if they weren't regulated. And it's sort of the reason I think that he did all of this. He's a plant. He did all of this because he wanted regulation in the crypto world, and now the government has a perfect excuse to say, look, well, if we don't regulate you, we're going to have more people like FTX going on. And all of this is really simple. Regulations aren't the solution here. All you need is for Coinbase or Kraken or FTX or whatever cryptocurrency exchange to actually list publicly their Bitcoin address. You can't do anything with that address, but you can verify that this is the amount of Bitcoin they have. This is how much they say they should have and how much they're supposed to have, and it's right. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized that conclusion, reasserting that it was a Russian missile, something the Kremlin denies. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to discuss the issue in New York. While in Brussels, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has also backed the Polish investigation.
We have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president, who faces multiple investigations, is unfit to serve. Trump threw his hat into the race on Tuesday night, giving a speech in front of 450 of his closest supporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, from where FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
As Trump made his announcement, President Joe Biden released a video attacking the former president on abortion, the economy, and the Capitol riots, claiming Trump failed America. This was expected from Democrats, but Republicans are also distancing themselves, some outright blaming Trump for the GOP's poor showing in the midterms. Rupert Murdoch's conservative paper, The New York Post, which was once a Trump cheerleader, didn't even mention his 2024 bid on its front page. And his own daughter, Ivanka, skipped the event, saying she's steering clear of politics for now.
Twitter boss Elon Musk has given his staff an ultimatum, either to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. Employees have until the end of Thursday to make their decision. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
Twitter employees have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday to decide whether they'll stay at the company. In an email sent to staff on Tuesday evening, with a subject line, "A fork in the road," Musk outlines how the social media company, going forward, would want to succeed in an increasingly competitive world and how everybody needed to be extremely hardcore. And then the ultimatum, to which staff needed to click yes on the provided link if they wanted to stay. Twitter employees who decide not to stay will receive 3 months severance, according to the memo.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, where you are invited to take control of the airwaves. You can talk about what we've been discussing, or you can change the subject and talk about something completely different, whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160. If you would like to do that, again, that number 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And before we started talking about trolls and bridges and all of that great stuff, we were talking about hearing loss. But in other troll news, we don't just have our own chat server. We have our own social media server. It is a Mastodon server. You may have been hearing about that more in recent days as Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter becomes a thing, and people are upset about that. So they're moving to alternative platforms, and they're looking for. Some people are going back to Tumblr, and others have talked about going back to MySpace. These centralized mechanisms are not the solution. You need something decentralized so that if something doesn't like the way. If you don't like the way something is doing, you can just go to a different server. And one of the beautiful things about Mastodon is that despite what most people think, they think, oh, okay, I have to join this server, and then I can only interact with people on that server. It doesn't work that way. It's so much cooler that you can interact with people on all sorts of other servers. And there's so much beauty in that. Just because you join one server doesn't mean you can only interact with people on our... Like if you join the Free Talk Live server, you can interact with people on other servers, not just other Free Talk Live listeners. And it's fantastic. And because of that, you can get reported by people on other servers. And man, do people love reporting our users to us. It's not daily, but it's very frequent that we get reports of people, oh, this person's a anti-Semite, or this person's a racist or homophobe. And I just scroll down and click the mark as resolved button, which just makes it go away. And I wouldn't even do that, except it is kind of important that we make sure that if anyone's uploading anything that's actually like illegal, that we remove it, which is the only reason I bother to check these things in the first place. Because it's usually just Karens, and I don't care about that. Yeah. But if someone's like, hey, this person's uploading child pornography, well, I was like, okay, we got to do something
let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
Or spammers, like... As far as, like, even Telegram chats that I moderate, I don't really remove anything except for spammers, because that's just annoying. And especially on Telegram nowadays, there are so many spammers. Like, one of my groups, I just deleted it altogether because I was getting, like, 10... invest in Bitcoin, blah, 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 this random scam.
Yeah,
like 10 of those a day.
I get added to groups that are just scam groups all the time. I'm like, what the heck?
It's so annoying.
But you can just click a button that says, like, mark as spam and remove yourself.
Yeah.
That's the best way to handle these things. Obviously, it's to just block them and get them out of your life. But, obviously you don't want spammers littering your server, because that's essentially what spam is. And that's what it feels like. It's just people littering. You want to give people a decent, clean environment where they can
throw it in the trash.
Yeah, where they can post freely without having to worry about getting flooded out by 50,000 spam bots or whatever. You can find our server at social.freetalklive.com, and you don't have to worry about anyone trying to sell you a blue check mark or anything like that over our own server, over at our server, because we don't have a blue check mark to sell you. Mm-hmm. There may be, in fact, some sort of mechanism that would allow us to authenticate some users or to give them some sort of check mark or whatever. And I don't know, maybe if someone threw some money at me, I might be willing to do it. But until then, I'm not. But I'm not doing it because obviously I'm being facetious. Such a thing doesn't exist. And even if it did, that's way more effort than I would want to put into something like this.
But it's going to be more than $5.
I mean, I'm not sure there's any amount of effort that would cause me to want to be willing to actually like go through and change someone's profile to make it their official profile. It's like, dude, no.
I don't know. And just the concept of, here, I'm going to pay you money and you're going to authenticate me. I don't, but like the purpose of it for celebrities, it's like, this person is just famous and they confirmed that they're who they say they are. So I feel like paying for it kind of defeats the purpose of it. Then like anyone can have one.
It's not just that though. There's other like features, apparently.
Yeah. That was one of the things I liked about Twitter Blue, and I would have acquired
Or maybe that's all I'm thinking of.
What's
I've
that,
never
Twitter
wanted
Blue?
to get any of those things. So
Twitter Blue is what they rolled the verification thing into.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what that is.
So previously, in order to get verified on Twitter, you had to be a person of note. You had to have a certain number of followers, and it wasn't clear how many followers it was, but it was somewhere between 1,500 and more. So anyone who had 1,500 plus
Which is
followers,
not a lot.
It's not at all. You could easily get a blue check mark. I know libertarians who, like, they ran for office once, and now they have a blue check mark, and I'm like, well, I guess good for you if that's the sort of thing you care about, but it was meant to prevent people from having their identity stolen on the internet, where if someone wanted to take the Elon Musk profile, they could do that, but they wouldn't have the check mark, so you would know that it wasn't really Elon Musk.
And that's the only way it makes sense. Like, I would never want one because it's like, there aren't people online pretending to be me. If there was, maybe I could see the point of it, you know?
Well, and that was the thing. They were worried about notable people having their identities misrepresented online, but what they considered to be notable, the bar on that steadily got lower and lower to the point where if you had 1,500 followers, you could pretty much get one of these blue check marks. And it meant nothing for the last several years anyway.
Which is, you know what's funny about that? I know fake profiles that have way more than 1,500 followers.
Sure.
So that totally defeats the whole purpose of it.
Wait, 1,500?
Yes.
That's so small. I was thinking you said 15,000 for some reason.
Even 15,000 really isn't that much for somebody who's a celebrity.
1,500 is like anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone can do that. That's what I'm saying. There's a bunch of libertarians I know who have the blue check mark, and it's like they're not really notable or known. And I mean, even among libertarians, if you saw them at a festival, you wouldn't know who they are because they're just not notable. But that's the way it works, right? That's the way all of these things work. It began as this prestigious thing, and everyone was like, ooh, I want that. And they talked their way into, oh, well, I'm really popular in this weird little niche circle. It may look like I only have 30 followers, but really, I'm very popular over here. And all of these other people, so Twitter would be like, okay, here's your blue check mark. Until finally it meant absolutely nothing, except to egotistical people like Stephen King. And don't get me wrong, Stephen King's got plenty of reasons to be egotistical. The man can take anything. He can write a story about a haunted pair of scissors if he wanted to. And I say that because there's a pair of scissors sitting right here, and it seems oftentimes like that's what Stephen King does. He looks and he sees a random item, and then he writes a book about it. And he's good at writing books. I'm not going to say that all of his books are good because some of them have been pretty terrible and some of them have been unnecessarily long. However, he is a notable figure, but he's upset at the possibility that he might have to pay for his blue check mark. But recently, back to the point, recently Twitter rolled out Twitter Blue, or they've had it for a long time, but it's only available for iOS or Apple devices, where you could pay Twitter some amount of money, I think it was $8 per month, and they would reduce the amount of ads that you're served, and they would do some other interesting things like that. Well, recently they decided, okay, we'll also let these people have verified accounts, which makes sense in a lot of ways. You're already charging these people, so you're getting their credit card information, and if you want to legitimately process someone's credit card information, you should probably ask to see their ID as well to prove that it's actually their credit card. So it makes sense that they would roll it all together into one package, but obviously this led to people exploiting it. And a lot of it has been absolutely hilarious. Like my favorite was probably the Volve one, VOLVE, of someone pretending to be Valve, the video game company that owns Steam and that created Half-Life 3. They created a fake profile called Volve and tweeted that they were going to release Half Guy 3 tomorrow, and it was totally real and not fake, and they had the little blue check mark right beside it, and it was so obviously fake. It was priceless. But then you have the company that promised to give away diabetic medication online, and it caused their stock to just plummet because it wasn't really that company. It was someone who just paid for a blue check mark.
Oh my God.
So it hasn't been going well. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It is Free Talk Live.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can take control of the airwaves. 603-283-6160. If you would like to do that, that's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And I didn't mean to get into the subject of Elon Musk and Twitter, but it's such a phenomenal thing to watch, and I'm loving it. As someone who uses Twitter barely and who doesn't, I could take or leave Twitter. If Twitter vanished tomorrow, It would have no impact on my life whatsoever.
I haven't had a Twitter in like 10 years.
I would be probably the most upset here if Twitter disappeared tomorrow. Not like actually upset, I'd just be like, dang, what do I do now? Because I really like Twitter. I hate Instagram. I don't like use Snapchat that much. I use it more to watch other people's stuff than to post. So
I use Facebook probably more than any other social media platform. I realize Facebook is even worse than Twitter and stuff like that. But when I use Facebook, I saw someone today trying to post a serious discussion about abortion, about the abortion arguments. I'm like, this is not what Facebook is for.
Aria uses Facebook correctly.
Yes, and that's the only thing it's good for. It's crap posting, realistically. That's all Facebook is good for. And that's all it's ever going to be good for. And I find joy in using it for that purpose. I find that Facebook Messenger is very useful. Having all of these people that I can chat with just the press of a button and being able to just create group chats easily and quickly and drop out of group chats. I would suggest that it should be easier, or group chats should automatically delete if nothing has been posted to them. And you should be able to set some time limit when you create a group chat. If no one uses this in the next week or whatever, auto-delete the group chat, because I have hundreds of group chats. At my other job, we tend to create group chats for people who are closing, or people who are going to this concert together, or who are going to the bar together on this day or whatever, and it just makes things easier to coordinate. And then we never use it again, or this employee leaves, so we stop using that one and we make a new one. If we could just have them auto-delete, that would be better. And Snapchat, we do sort of the same thing with it, except Snapchat has its own little benefits and flaws. Realistically, none of the social media out there are perfect. I find that social media doesn't have much of a role to play in my life anymore, though. Once upon a time, I loved it, and I didn't live for it, but I enjoyed immensely sharing my opinions with the world on social media.
See, I used to be like that with Instagram, like as far as posting pictures. Like, I was always like, oh, if we go there, I'll take a picture, things like that. And now I don't care about that at all. Like, I don't know what changed. It's not like I did it on purpose. I just do not care about that at all. And I'm more interested in Twitter because I like having conversations more than just like posting pictures anymore. It's like,
I think Twitter's probably better for actual conversations than Facebook is, even though Facebook has no character limit and Twitter does. And I think the two things may be related.
Because people post these giant walls of text on Facebook. Like, the last time I had one was 2020, but I remember like that's an old people thing.
Or the caps lock.
It's not just an old people thing, though. It's a lot of people trying to have serious discussions on Facebook, where it's just this lengthy tirade about why
so heated.
Well, they also do get heated.
Yeah.
But even if they're just completely calm and collected, it's like Facebook is not the venue for this.
It's like, I'm not going to read all that.
No, and what's good about Twitter is that it forces people to be succinct and to not water their ideas down, but to condense them to a point where it can be expressed in a easily digestible way. And obviously some ideas are just too complicated. I'm not going to convey to anyone how a libertarian society could work in 3 tweets.
Well, and that's the thing about Facebook. It's like, should you be using Facebook for that purpose? I'm not trying to... I don't know. Facebook, I just don't think Facebook should be a serious place. Maybe at one point it could have been, but now it's just for memes and, posting pictures of people's kids and stuff. It's not...
Yeah, I was going to say, last time I was on Facebook, it was just like people's kids, old people doing these quizzes where it's like, I'm Arizona. What state are you? Or
that still happens. That still happens.
And I see people posting them. I'm like, well, first of all, it's just random.
Yeah,
it's not
it's
analyzing your profile.
No.
You're like, oh, this person
shuffle
is most similar to this celebrity in appearance or whatever. It's just completely random. And if you don't like the result,
shuffle
and try again.
Yeah.
So people are posting these things. It's like, you could just say, these are my characteristics, and skip the stupid game altogether. But they don't do that for some reason.
Like when I worked at a hotel in Utah, it was like they weren't like old. They were like in their late 40s and early 50s, but the people I worked with, they were always like tagging me in them and like saying like, which one are you? Like, you know, like you should take the quiz too. And they were like obsessed with that. And it was just like, terrible. I would do it to be nice if they ever like tagged me. But for the most part, I would just see them posting these over and over. And it's just like, I hope they know nobody reads that.
At least the quizzes pretend, or at least they attempt to identify certain character, like which Disney villain are you? And then they ask you 15 questions or whatever. At least it attempts to identify some characteristics and link them up with your answers. But some of the ones that people are doing now, like, they're just completely random, and it's sad knowing that they could just hit shuffle until they get the result they want, and then they share that like it's something fascinating about themselves. It's
crazy, and it's also like a huge waste of time. Like the quiz ones, they are like one question a page, and the page is mostly random ads, so you could accidentally click the wrong thing. You click next, it loads for a bit and then brings you to the next page. It's just so bad. It's like
that's the point of them, the ads.
Yep.
You know, someone is making money off of like 60-year-old women, like, oh, you know, what state should I move to?
They are making money off of it, and that's sort of the problem, as I understand it. Like, if you own one of these sites like Quizzer.com or whatever, and you're serving these ads to people, maybe 1 in every 1,000 people accidentally clicks one of these ads.
Yeah.
But it's an accident. They don't go on to buy it, and then you get money because this person clicked it.
And you know, I always wonder that if those ads are if they actually work, because none of the ads I've ever seen on like a YouTube video or on those quiz things, none of them I've actually seen. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm interested in that, or oh yeah, I'm gonna go buy that.
In my opinion, they don't work.
No, I don't think so either.
I could go to a website right now on my phone. I realized I was just complaining about this last night, but I could go to any website on my phone right now, any of them that serve ads, and it's going to serve me ads for bullionmax.com, which is a website that sells gold and silver and stuff like that.
That you already know about and you already use.
Yes, and that's exactly the problem. I've been to bullionmax.com. I'm a customer of bullionmax.com, and I never saw advertisements for them until I had gone there and made a purchase. That was the very first time I ever saw an ad for them. Now, a smart algorithm would be like, okay, this person's interested in gold and silver. Maybe they're also interested in cryptocurrency or platinum or diamonds or whatever, or some other thing that's an alternative store of value. But instead, they don't do that. They just, here's some more Bullion Max ads. And it's depressing because Bullion Max is paying these people to serve me these ads.
Yeah.
And if I click one of these buttons, Bullion Max pays them more, even though it brings them no benefit whatsoever. And that's why the entire thing is broken. However, if I go to like Tubi.tv, which is a television and movie streaming service, it's going to serve me ads that are just completely and totally random, like for laundry detergent or for this brand of paper plates or paper towels. And I'm like, that could actually be effective. Make me aware of something that I'm not already aware of. If I'm aware of something, I'm already going to know how to go about acquiring it. But you have to, as an advertiser, you should want to make me aware of something that I don't already know about and make me interested in that product. And I don't think they're doing that. And I think that's probably why the advertising models just don't work.
You should go into marketing.
I don't know how to market something though, and I don't know how.
Well, apparently you know how to better than they do, because that already sounds a lot better than what all the advertising companies are doing.
That's true. I can point. I don't know if I can come up with an alternative solution, but I can certainly look at the current model and say this is not working, and this is why it's not working.
I just don't understand why they don't think of this like this, because it'll be worse than that sometimes. Like I'll buy something, like say buy some sweatpants from Abercrombie.com. I will get advertised, not Abercrombie.com, which almost makes sense. It's like maybe they'll return, maybe they're thinking of buying, and they'll just click on this. I'll get advertised those sweatpants. Like those sweatpants from Abercrombie.com.
Like, yep, I just bought those.
Right. It's so bad. Like, why would that ever be an option for the advertisement? Doesn't make sense.
I've mostly been getting Bullion Max ads, but I just bought some oatmeal prior to the start of the show. Some Quaker oatmeal, in fact. I don't want to explain why, but I bought some oatmeal. I'm curious now if I go to a website if I will be served ads for Quaker oatmeal. I think chances are fairly good that I would be, even though I just bought it. And I don't need it advertised to me because I'm already a customer. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized that conclusion, reasserting that it was a Russian missile, something the Kremlin denies. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to discuss the issue in New York. While in Brussels, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has also backed the Polish investigation.
We have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president, who faces multiple investigations, is unfit to serve. Trump threw his hat into the race on Tuesday night, giving a speech in front of 450 of his closest supporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, from where FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
As Trump made his announcement, President Joe Biden released a video attacking the former president on abortion, the economy, and the Capitol riots, claiming Trump failed America. This was expected from Democrats, but Republicans are also distancing themselves, some outright blaming Trump for the GOP's poor showing in the midterms. Rupert Murdoch's conservative paper, The New York Post, which was once a Trump cheerleader, didn't even mention his 2024 bid on its front page. And his own daughter, Ivanka, skipped the event, saying she's steering clear of politics for now.
Twitter boss Elon Musk has given his staff an ultimatum, either to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. Employees have until the end of Thursday to make their decision. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
Twitter employees have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday to decide whether they'll stay at the company. In an email sent to staff on Tuesday evening, with the subject line, "A fork in the road," Musk outlines how the social media company, going forward, would want to succeed in an increasingly competitive world and how everybody needed to be extremely hardcore. And then the ultimatum, to which staff needed to click yes on the provided link if they wanted to stay. Twitter employees who decide not to stay will receive 3-month severance, according to the memo.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail at the latest evidence of growing Chinese public anger over the country's implementation of a strict zero-COVID policy. In the country where the pandemic originated, the last few weeks have seen incidents of Chinese citizens rebelling against lockdowns and curbs on their freedom of movement. Hundreds of staff fled a Foxconn factory rather than endure the restrictions there, and this week crowds of people in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou forced their way through COVID barriers in a fresh example of public anger over COVID curbs. Jim Lindsay of the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations says Beijing is between a rock and a hard place.
The Chinese are waiting around until they can develop their own vaccine, their own mRNA vaccine. I should note that they have been unwilling to take Western mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna. I imagine the Chinese state has a sufficient surveillance and coercive apparatus to make those shutdowns last a very long time. But Chinese citizens are like citizens everywhere else. They want to lead their own lives. Lockdowns are very, very hard to deal with. And there's going to be growing pressure on the Chinese government to find some way out of this cul-de-sac that they have put themselves in.
Some analysts expected restrictions to be loosened after President Xi secured a third term in power last month, but that has not happened. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, the United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president is unfit to serve. And Twitter boss Elon Musk is giving his staff an ultimatum to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
An unpopular police officer thinks about committing a racially motivated offense for a little support. A middle-aged man is having the best snacks of his life, and a housefly drops everything to go stand on a watermelon slice. This is the Onion Week in Review. Noting the youth center's ping-pong table and array of DVDs and Blu-rays, local youth minister Mark Kindler told reporters this week that his church's new rec room has everything a teen could want. The youth pastor revealed that the basement facility's many teen-friendly amenities include a new Wii U console, an iPod dock for the teens to play any music they like, and some comfortable recliners for those who just want to relax or do their homework after school.
We've really gone out of our way to give the rec room a laid-back atmosphere. It's stocked with snacks, but sometimes at the end of the week, we'll spring for some pizza. Honestly, I wish I had a place like this when I was their age.
In other news, increased violence leads the State Department to issue an advisory for Americans traveling to 1861, and an elderly lobbyist is always droning on about how little legislation used to cost in his day.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. As always, you're invited to join the show. You can talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. Again, the number is 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And I like watching the catastrophe that is going on at Twitter right now. And that's not to say that Twitter is on the verge of dying or anything like that. It seems to be, I suspect Twitter will survive Elon Musk. And according to Elon Musk, Twitter now has a record number of people using it on a daily basis. But to me, I don't necessarily think that's a huge sign of success at the moment. People are using it a lot because it's interesting at the moment.
Yeah, people are just talking about it.
It might it went up and it might go back down to normal since it's just like buzzing right now.
Yeah.
The advertisers are still fleeing Twitter as I understand it, but people are still using it, and they're using it more than ever because, it's where things are happening. It's interesting, it's exciting. There's stuff going on there, and it's like someone else pointed out, and this is not my words, but someone else said that, it's leaving Twitter right now would be like leaving right before the Hindenburg took off. And that I think that's appropriate.
Really?
Yes. I mean, you don't leave right before the fireworks start, right? And that's how Twitter feels right now. It feels like things are going downhill, and it's like watching a train wreck. No one leaves. No one stops watching right before the train crashes.
I guess for some reason I thought you meant that as in like it's going to be that world changing, because if the Hindenburg took off and did well, then it was going to like change the world of travel.
What's it going to? What the Hindenburg had flown a number of times, hadn't it?
Maybe not like if it did it that one time, but they like said like we can't have this for commercial purposes after the Hindenburg crashed, which makes me think that it was a false flag because like other industries wanted a piece of it and they purposely, it's like SBF. They made it crash so that way they can be like, oh, we can't have this.
Oh, FTX.
Oh yeah, I keep calling
SBF is the sunblock thing, right?
No, SBF is Sam Bankman-Fried, and they call him SBF, and then his thing is FTX. So
Sam Bankman what?
Fried, something like that.
Oh, that's his name. Okay.
Yeah. So I keep accidentally calling it that, but yeah.
No worries. I just wanted to be on the same page. The Hindenburg was a fascinating thing to me because it was all of these people smoking on this blimp. It's like, how did they not know that this flammable gas that they were smoking in, this was a recipe for disaster? And obviously you have to have some amount of oxygen for there to be a fire and an explosion, but you had that oxygen too, otherwise people wouldn't have been able to breathe. It was such a monumentally bad idea that I'm amazed that it ever happened, because it seems like at some point someone said, hey, this seems like a bad idea. We shouldn't do this.
But like today, we can't have our own like better designed Hindenburgs to fly from here to somewhere else, and it wouldn't even hurt the environment or anything because of that. Like because people are like, oh, we can't have that. Remember how it fell and exploded? Like literally, I want my own little.
FCC, not the FCC, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. They're the reasons that we can't have our own blimps.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you couldn't even have a drone that's too big.
It would be so much easier. Like, I would never fly my own plane, but if blimps...
Dude, I would.
Well, personally, I wouldn't. But if blimps were, like, commercially available, it was like people often bought them. You could get a reputable blimp. I would totally drive my own blimp because it's, like, slow and easy and really cool. They could make them so pretty, so much prettier than freaking airplanes.
I would probably feel safer in an airplane.
But flying one, that's the thing. That sounds scary to me. But
I mean, if I knew how to do it.
It doesn't scare me to be in a plane. I don't know why. It sounds really scared to fly one.
Don't want that responsibility.
Mm-mm.
Well, a plane isn't, in and of itself, doesn't have to be any more dangerous or any more complicated than driving an automobile. I'm sure if you ask someone from 1820, what's the year? It's 2022, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask someone from 1822 if they felt like, what if we put you behind in the seat of controlling this vehicle that could travel at 70 miles per hour and ran on gasoline, I'm sure they would be terrified and they wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. So it's just a matter of experience at this point. I mean, and most planes fly themselves. It's the taking off and the landing that are difficult. I've flown a plane before, and it sounds fun to say that, and it's awesome to be able to say that, but like all I really had to sort of do was like sit there.
You didn't land it or take off?
Oh, good Lord, no.
Oh, okay.
No, that's where skill and actual knowledge come into play, and where you can't just...
Exactly. That's probably exactly what's more scary about a plane than a blimp is like if you were landing your blimps, you would be really slowly, carefully, okay, a little to the left, a little to the right, but not like, down to the ground.
Well, I think there's probably a way, if there weren't regulations and people could actually be creative, I think there's probably a way that one could create an air vehicle that's no more complicated to fly and land and take off with than your average automobile.
I mean, even like look at the evolution of cars, right? Now you don't even have to drive your car. I mean, some cars parallel park for you. There's cruise control. There's the lane. So if you swerve into the other lane, the car beeps and moves. And I know the car that Matt has actually turns around corners and stuff. So you pretty much barely even have to drive that car. Me personally, that makes me nervous. I like to be in control of the death machine that I'm operating,
Right, that's really scary to me.
But really, you don't even have to know how to parallel park. The car does it for you. It doesn't even, I don't even know how it does it.
Not to mention automatics versus stick shifts, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to change the gears in your car anymore beyond putting it in drive.
I mean, to me, and like, I love driving. So to me, that's boring. I drive a lot. So for me, just driving a manual, I'm like, I'm going to fall asleep if I'm driving somewhere for like 3 hours. It's fun to have the control over the vehicle and at least being able to shift gears, and, it makes it a little bit more interesting at least.
I tend to agree. One of my vehicles is a stick shift. That's a manual. The other one is an automatic. And they both have different perks and disadvantages. But on the whole, I would prefer that my Eclipse, which is the car I primarily drive, I would prefer that be a manual because it's just more fun to drive a manual. It's such a minor little tweak, but it is more fun.
And I will say also, driving around Keene and New Hampshire, driving a manual is fun, but driving in Boston in traffic, you're getting leg cramps. It's totally different.
In general is a nightmare.
But the stop and go is like, oh my gosh, okay, let's shift all the way down to first, and here's another red light. It makes it substantially less fun. I will say that.
And there's almost nothing worse than having to downshift into first, because there's no good way to resume movement in first gear. It's going to be jerky and it's going to suck. But, if people were free to innovate, I suspect all of these problems would exist in the aviation world. But we would also have solutions to it. We would be having a discussion about whether or not we prefer our aircraft to be a stick shift or an automatic or whatever. The possibilities are limitless, and we will never know exactly what has been stolen from us because of regulations.
Because of the Hindenburg incident.
Oh, and because of the Hindenburg. But if you went all the way back in time and you outlawed two-wheel vehicles, and you just said, okay, nothing with an engine could have only two vehicles, and you fast-forwarded to the year 2022, no one would be driving motorcycles, and no one would know how awesome motorcycles were. They wouldn't be like, oh, man, it would be great if the government hadn't outlawed motorcycles, because they wouldn't even know such a thing existed.
Right.
And that's how we are looking around at the possibilities of flying vehicles and stuff. Yeah, taking off in an airplane is terrifying. There was a crash here in Keene not terribly long ago that apparently the plane wasn't fit to fly, and the highly experienced pilots probably should have known that and done something about it. But anyway, it's a terrifying experience to take off in one of these things and land in one. But it doesn't have to be. And these are aircrafts that were made that were designed in the 50s and the 60s. Technology could be better, and we could have better ways of traveling where we didn't have to deal with the traffic in Boston, but we don't, and we don't even know what we're missing. 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in. There's more coming up, including the Hindenburg that is Twitter. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live with Aria, Bonnie, and Nikki, and you are invited to join us 603-283-6160 if you'd like to do that. Again, that number is 603-283-6160. And earlier tonight, I mentioned Bullion Max. It's where you should go if you want to acquire gold or silver, gold backs or actual gold coins or silver coins or any sort of gold or silver bullion. BullionMax.com/FTL is where you should go. You can actually get their silver starter package there. It's 5 ounces of beautiful pieces of silver at employee pricing. As I understand it, Bullion Max is not making any money off of this. They're just trying to help you acquire silver. So that's bullionmax.com/FTL. You are limited to 1 per household. So you'll have to, beat your brother or sister or your parents or whatever to ordering it. But it's 5 ounces of absolutely beautiful silver. Unfortunately, it's got all of the problems that silver has. I mean, one of them is marked with the Queen of England or something like that. I don't remember what they're all marked with, but it's silver. And if you've never seen a silver coin, they're breathtakingly beautiful. And you cannot beat silver. Well, you can. I mean, gold's pretty good too.
No, I like them both. I like them both.
They each have their own benefits and their own uses and their own things going on with them. BullionMax.com/FTL. There's also a silverback that Bullion Max is giving away while you're there. If you're just visiting the site, eventually you'll probably get a pop-up about entering the contest to win it. They're absolutely beautiful pieces, and I hope that someone here on Free Talk Live wins one. I hope we all win one, to be fair. But as long as one of us wins one, I will be happy. Did you ever?
I just want to see it. I did, finally.
Okay, awesome.
I just want to see it, though.
That's your. I just want to hold it and see it and take a picture of it and put it on social media. I'm like, guys, look at this beautiful thing, because it's not valuable, and I suspect we'll be able to find one on eBay or something like that for probably not an entirely unreasonable markup, maybe $15-20. I would be willing.
I would totally do
me
it.
too.
Yeah, I would be willing to pay that. So I'm sure we'll be able to get one way or the other. But I would much rather someone here at Free Talk Live win one, just so we can all see it. Ideally, if we win one, it'll be hanging up right there in the studio because I think that's probably a perfect place for it. But it's a beautiful silver dragon piece. And it's only 1,000th of an ounce of silver. So, like, it's a negligible amount of silver. But that's not the point.
It was made for proof of concept.
It is. But the concept here is that silver does not need to be reduced into that quantity of 1,000th of a troy ounce.
But if it ever gets so expensive, it would, right?
It would, yeah. Silver Dave here in New Hampshire is doing something similar. He's competing with the Goldback. He's got these silver things. I don't remember exactly.
The bars?
Yes, but they're denominated in like amounts that are worth about $3 or $4.
Yep.
It's meant to be a competitor to the Goldback. But the advantage of the Goldback is that it's got these beautiful, it's art. And it's shiny. I would love to have these silverbacks do the exact same thing, but as we mentioned before, 1,000th of a troy ounce it just is not economical. But if Silver Dave could come up with a way to have like 1/10 of a troy ounce of silver with some beautiful, Lady Liberty ingrained on it, I would be all about it. It just sounds like that would also not be cost effective. But bullionmax.com/FTL. We mentioned the Goldback a couple of times. You can even get the Goldback there. The new Wyoming Goldbacks. I still have not ordered a set because I keep putting it off. All of that and more at bullionmax.com/FTL. They'll even sell you, I think it's palladium is what it's called. I've never heard of it, but it's similar to platinum and gold and silver in that it's a precious metal of some description. So there's all sorts of stuff there. It's not just the Goldback and it's not just silver coins. They have any sort of precious metal that you could be interested in. They've probably got it. bullionmax.com/FTL to get your deal, your employee pricing deal. Let's go to the phones. We have Creighton on the line from Kentucky. Creighton, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, thanks for having me. I wanted to ask the ladies of the show tonight, because you all are, well, some of you are fairly recent movers, about what kind of resources would you suggest to me to do research for before making an attempt to move?
So the Free State Project actually has people who their job is to answer questions, and I know I'm the kind of like new mover representative for the Monadnock region, so I get emails all the time that like Chris Lopez, she sends people my way where I can answer questions, and I get all sorts of questions like about jobs, driving in the snow, what kind of jackets to buy, what my favorite hiking trails are, and I'm always more than happy to answer those questions via email. So the Free State Project actually has some really great resources, and I'm sure they have like frequently asked question pages, and they do have like little rundowns of each region.
In a Facebook group.
Yeah, they have Facebook groups too. There's also new mover parties, so we help people move in when they move here. So there's a bunch of different resources that the FSP has that are really helpful for people who are considering the move.
I suppose it depends on what sort of questions you're trying to have answered.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to do research about how should I contact a Free Stater for renting a home, that kind of thing.
I think the Free Stater Facebook group is probably going to be your best place for that sort of thing. And I don't have the link off the top of my head, but I see a lot of rental requests there, or like, hey guys, I've got this property that's about to open up for rent. A lot of Free Staters do own additional property. They do rent out rooms. It depends on what you're looking for. They do rent out rooms. Some of them rent out apartments. Some of them just have land and you can put an RV there. There are all sorts of possibilities like that. About like how to connect with these people and how to identify them, I honestly don't know. Do either of you?
No, because like the way I got up here was like I started dating someone.
That's the easiest way.
So it's like I didn't go up here and like look for a house. So I honestly don't know.
But I don't know that that's true. I mean, you didn't come straight to here in Leverett Street.
Well, that is a good. Like for some people, this may actually be an option. I just didn't think to point it out. But I started working for Young Americans for Liberty. So like they would pay for my hotel I stayed at the whole time and pay me to do a job. So if you ever find a job like that, it's just like, I don't know how to get a job like that other than Young Americans for Liberty is the only one I know. But if you find a job like that, where then you can like basically do your job and be paid to kind of tour, like, and decide if you want to stay and what you want to do, what place you want to go in New Hampshire, and then set yourself up from there. But I mean, Young Americans for Liberty doesn't pay a lot. It's like $16 an hour or something, but I don't think that they're doing it right now because it's like during election season.
So on the Free State Project website, it's fsp.org. They have a bunch of links to the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. They
is this
have
under
like
community.
What is that?
Is this under their community tab at fsp.org?
Yes.
Okay.
And then they also have like a chat feature where you can like ask questions, and I'm assuming that just redirects to the email, but they're pretty responsive as far as emails go.
Creighton, thank you so much for the call tonight. There are all sorts of possibilities. I mean, of course, there is the Shire Society Forum. Creighton mentioned that during the call. There's Matrix servers. There are there's Matrix rooms on our Matrix server. There's Telegram rooms. There's Facebook groups. There's all sorts of ways to contact Free Staters and ask these questions. FSP.org to get started. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized that conclusion, reasserting that it was a Russian missile, something the Kremlin denies. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to discuss the issue in New York. While in Brussels, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has also backed the Polish investigation.
We have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president, who faces multiple investigations, is unfit to serve. Trump threw his hat into the race on Tuesday night, giving a speech in front of 450 of his closest supporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, from where FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
As Trump made his announcement, President Joe Biden released a video attacking the former president on abortion, the economy, and the Capitol riots, claiming Trump failed America. This was expected from Democrats, but Republicans are also distancing themselves, some outright blaming Trump for the GOP's poor showing in the midterms. Rupert Murdoch's conservative paper, The New York Post, which was once a Trump cheerleader, didn't even mention his 2024 bid on its front page. And his own daughter, Ivanka, skipped the event, saying she's steering clear of politics for now.
Twitter boss Elon Musk has given his staff an ultimatum, either to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. Employees have until the end of Thursday to make their decision. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
Twitter employees have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday to decide whether they'll stay at the company. In an email sent to staff on Tuesday evening, with the subject line "A Fork in the Road," Musk outlines how the social media company, going forward, would want to succeed in an increasingly competitive world and how everybody needed to be extremely hardcore. And then the ultimatum, to which staff needed to click yes on the provided link if they wanted to stay. Twitter employees who decide not to stay will receive 3 months severance, according to the memo.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, and you are invited to join us. 603-283-6160. If you want to weigh in, you can talk about whatever we've been discussing, or you can change the subject and talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160. And I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. That's where you should go if you want to learn about cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is on sale at the moment, and I really wish I could buy. I'm assuming it's still on sale. The last I heard, it was on sale, and I suspect it's still on sale with everything that's going on in the crypto world. I suspect it's going to be on sale for a while, and there will be even better sales in the near future. That's what my gut tells me. Bitcoin.com, though, if you want to learn about it, because it's not just about investing in cryptocurrency. It's about securing your place in the new world order, in the new financial system, because I don't want to use the phrase new world order.
I was going to say, you're going to scare people.
I mean, it is the new world order, though. It's a new order of the world, a new financial way of doing things, a new way of allowing people to control their own destinies.
I agree 100%, but I still think that you just scared a bunch of the conservatives.
Well, good. Screw them. They're conservatives. I don't care about them anyway. They don't care about me. Look, as soon as they looked on the Twitch stream and they saw me sitting here, they got scared away anyway.
Right.
So I don't really care about them. Bitcoin.com, though. Click getting started at the top of the page. Don't do like these people did who had their money sitting on FTX or some other cryptocurrency exchange. Not your keys, not your wallet. We all know it. So let's put that into action. If you don't know what that means, again, getting started at Bitcoin.com. Take just a few minutes out of your day to learn about this important world-changing information, because it's not like it can be like putting money into your Wells Fargo account or your Bank of America account or whatever, and then it's their money and they can loan it out and they can do whatever they want with it. And if you want to take it back, often they will let you have it back if you satisfy their curiosity about why you want it or what you're doing with it, and they actually still have it. However, cryptocurrency, the beauty of it is that it allows you to be your own Bank of America, where you control your money and no one can tell you what you can and can't do with it because it's actually yours. Just like no one can tell you what you can or can't do with a dollar bill. Cryptocurrency takes that ownership and it gives it to you in a digital form, which is something the world has never had before. And that's so powerful.
And with a dollar bill, you can't just send that to anyone you want. I mean, like, except in the mail.
But even in the mail, they can steal your money.
That's true.
And yes, it's very risky to send money via the mail. But obviously, if you want to send money to someone in, Cambodia or whatever, there are ways to do that aren't wire transfer money. Yeah, you could take a box full of cash with you and you could jump on an airplane and fly down there, but that raises so many problems.
They might just take it at the airport.
Yeah, not only do you have to worry about some random person robbing you, but the government, the TSA, or you could get pulled over on the way to the airport. And I don't know, because I've never done it, but I suspect if you're carrying a box of $20,000 in your passenger seat, the police are probably not going to let you just keep going. They're going to confiscate that money. Cryptocurrency helps you avoid all of these problems. They can't just seize it like they could if they pulled you over and you had $20,000. If they pull you over and you've got $20,000 in your crypto wallet, they can't even find it, first of all, if you know what you're doing, and they certainly can't take it.
I'm just remembering a story of someone, I forget if it was a caller or if it was a story that we covered on the show, but someone was going to buy a house in a different state and they had the money in cash. They had like $20,000 or some large amount of money in cash, and it got stolen by the police.
No.
And of course they never got that money back because they're like, oh, you're probably some sort of criminal or drug dealer. And the person's like, no, I have the money in cash and I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah, it's called civil asset forfeiture, and it's technically legal, not moral, but legal. Not
It's
right,
crazy.
but legal.
So Bitcoin.com, click getting started, learn about what you can do to avoid all of these sorts of things.
Can I say something? This
absolutely.
is such an important subject, especially at this time. Like, we say not your keys, not your coins all the time, but so many people have gotten, caught up in this FTX thing. Like, so many people have their money on other things that aren't even FTX itself, and then since FTX was messing with them, they got shut down and now they lost cryptocurrency. And I just wish everybody would really listen to that. I just want to say this person, Bruce Fenton in New Hampshire, he tweeted this today. And there's a part I disagree with and a part I agree with, but I think it's a really important subject. He said, self-custody is not a magical solution. It's extremely hard for most people and not something they are comfortable with. And on the one hand, I'm like older people who aren't used to it, people who haven't spent a lot of time researching, it's going to seem confusing and it might seem hard. But I don't think that people should be just putting out that it's hard, because once you learn, it's not hard anymore.
Can you repeat his tweet again?
Self-custody is not a magical solution. It's extremely hard for most people and not something they're comfortable with.
Yeah, that's an absolutely insane thing to say. Self-custody is it's a technical way of saying you have your own money.
Right.
It's your money. This idea that you having your own money should be confusing or something you're uncomfortable with. Imagine how brainwashed in the banking industry you have to be for your entire life to come to the belief that I don't know that people should actually be able to have their own money.
Yeah, it sounds pretty simple to me. I don't know how that would be confusing or...
See, he's a Bitcoin person, Bruce Fenton. I don't think that he's saying that people shouldn't be allowed to. Here's the rest of the tweet.
I know he's not saying that. I mean, he was the creator of Ravencoin, so he's certainly a cryptocurrency advocate, but still, he's perpetrating their lies and their rumors. I don't care if the average person is uncomfortable with controlling their own money. I would expect a 5-year-old to be uncomfortable if I say, here's a $100 bill. It's yours. You have to take control. You have to take ownership of it. If you lose it, you lose it. I would expect the 5-year-old to be uncomfortable with that. But we're not talking about 5-year-olds. We're talking about grown adults who should have the autonomy, the independence, the self-reliance to be able to hold a $100 bill and say, this is mine and I'm comfortable with that.
Right. There are some things you got to learn more than just holding a $100 bill, but it's not impossible. It's if people are that dumb that that's a hurdle, then we're in a way worse place in society than we shouldn't even be talking about cryptocurrency. We need to go back to the basics. But let me finish the tweet. He says, personally, I hate it, self-custody. I hate exchanges and centralized control even more. The whole thing sucks.
He hates self-custody?
He said he hates it.
I love controlling my own money.
Yeah.
He said the whole thing sucks. Props to the companies working on making this easier.
I'm so confused by this tweet.
I am too.
So you don't like exchanges and you don't like self-custody. So what is
socialism where everything is free?
Yeah,
I think he's talking about,
I doubt that's what he's talking about.
When he says props to the companies working on making this easier, I don't know of any, but I'm assuming he means maybe he means something like Edge. That makes it easier than having to figure out how to figure out how to get access on your laptop, or hard storage is more complicated.
Just because you're using a crappy wallet doesn't mean that self-owner or self-custody is a bad thing, right? Some wallets are better than others. Jaxx was one of the first crypto wallets I ever used. That's JAXX, and I think it's pretty much dead now because it never even came around to supporting Bitcoin Cash.
Wow.
But it was a good user-friendly wallet at the time for what it did. And then, of course, Edge came along, Coinami came along actually next. And Coinami was even better. And then Edge came along, and it was even better. Edge, of course, utilizes servers, and you do have control of your keys, and they are your keys, and Edge can't access them, but it does use a password and username system that could be easier to hack for someone out there. I don't know the ins and outs of how all of that works, but even with Edge, they are your keys, and it is your money as a result of that. I don't understand this mentality that, it's dangerous to let people control their own money or it makes them uncomfortable. Good. They should be uncomfortable until they get used to it, because they will get used to it. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There is no such thing as attention span, according to Jerry Seinfeld, who figures that people have an infinite attention span if you are entertaining them. Hey, he's kept us from channel surfing for several decades, and now he's making more millions as a Las Vegas headliner. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're looking for work. So choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Avoid redundancies such as added bonus, advance warning, end result, prior history, or personal belongings. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
is Free Talk Live, where you are invited to take control of the airwaves. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And we're going to shift gears now, talk about Elon Musk and what's happening in Twitter over there, because it's been a fascinating few weeks watching Elon Musk's. I think it was the beginning of the month that Elon purchased Twitter officially and became its CEO. So we're like,
feels like longer than that.
We're barely 2 weeks into this catastrophe, and it's still unfolding. Twitter, well, I heard rumors that Elon Musk rounded up all of the employees and he fired all of the ones who did not write enough code. He ranked them based on how many lines of code they had written, and he fired all the ones who were at the bottom.
I'm wondering if all of this is true. It's just so hard for me to believe, all of the stories I'm hearing about him, walking in there and just firing random people. I mean, it might be true.
I tend to believe that one's probably not true. Elon Musk, he can't possibly be that stupid.
They're he just walked into Twitter headquarters and just started pointing at people and saying, "You're fired." I just doubt that's how it went down. You know what I mean?
In California, in Texas, you can get fired for any reason, and it's right to work.
That's the way it should be.
But in California, would he be that dumb to just do that? It seems really dumb.
I mean,
it seems like you'd get sued.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to, right? Because of the labor laws over there.
Right.
That's what I would expect, but I don't know, right? And I don't think Elon Musk is really stupid enough. I mean, a good programmer reduces the amount of code reduces the number of lines of code that they have in their program. And look, I'm just a script kiddie at this. I'm barely qualified I'm not qualified to call myself a programmer. I know how to do some coding, but nothing to the extent that any of these people are. But I know that you don't want unnecessary lines of code. That's not how you assess a good program versus a bad program based on how many lines of code it has.
Oh, I see where you're getting at.
Just like you don't judge a book based on how many pages it has. That doesn't mean it's a good book just because it's got
most pages.
Yeah, 400 pages versus 300 pages.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And just because you've written a program that only takes 50 lines of code, which obviously is going to take significantly more than that to do something like Twitter, but the goal is to reduce the amount of lines of code that's needed in order to make it function. The more lines of code you have, the more likely you are to have bugs.
Well, maybe it's not just how much they wrote on one thing. Maybe it's how much work they did in general. Maybe there's multiple different things that they dig code on, and it's he's adding it all up together, not just one thing. I don't know.
Well, and I'm sure he's not the one specifically that's looking at this, and it's yep, these are the people that didn't do enough I'm sure he has delegated this task of assessing who is useful to somebody else. But if he did just go well, this person's written 5,000 lines of code and this person's only written 2,000 lines of code, that person's going to get fired, that wouldn't really make sense.
It wouldn't. But Twitter and Elon Musk have a certain reputation at this point, so it wouldn't make any sense. But at the same time, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. This whole thing has shown me that Elon Musk, he may not be the brilliant businessman that many people seem to think he is. And I'm not surprised by that. I think he's kind of an idiot. He's a welfare whore. He's a very good welfare whore. He's a South African prince, basically, who grew up amongst apartheid and got his wealth that way. And then he came to the U.S. and he basically sold out to the government from the very beginning.
I don't know. I am kind of surprised, and I've been surprised by this whole Twitter thing. I don't know too much about Elon Musk, but from what I've seen, even though he is kind of a welfare whore, he did seem, at least with Tesla, to make good business decisions. He seems to have, however the way he did it, he built up his company. And is very, very successful. He does seem like a very intelligent, good businessman.
I don't know.
I was very surprised when he bought Twitter, because that just seems like such a dumb, it seems like a waste of time. It seems like a bad financial and business decision. It seems like it's going to negatively affect Tesla. It just doesn't seem like a good idea overall. So maybe he is an idiot because it doesn't make sense to me.
Aren't there lots of issues with Tesla? Like I hear all the time, like don't buy a Tesla because the battery.
It's an electric car, so yeah.
I mean, they catch on fire and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that kind of issue, and like if the battery dies on you, which can happen for dumb reasons, it's like so much more expensive than it would be worth to replace the car anyway.
That's just because it's an electric car. I mean, all electric car sucks, according to me.
But I mean, Tesla makes its money not from selling vehicles, but from selling carbon offsets to other car companies. Like the FDA, this is what the whole issue has been with controlling global warming and carbon caps and all of this other nonsense where they're like, okay, a car can only pollute you can only sell 10,000 cars that produce this amount of carbon. And then the Chevrolet sees that and they go, okay, well, how can we get around this? And Congress says, well, it's okay. If you can find a green car company, you can give them money to make less producing cars and your cars can produce more, but it's okay because you're paying them.
Doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. It's obviously not reducing the amount of carbon. King of the Hill did an episode about this a long, long time ago about how Strickland Propane began selling the carbon offset rights to some company that was polluting, and this made them magically green. Even though they didn't plant any new trees, nothing changed. The companies didn't stop producing any less carbon. They just gave Strickland Propane some money, and that's all that's happened here with Tesla. That's how they made their money, by selling carbon offsets to Ford and Chevrolet and Mitsubishi and other companies that produce cars that run on gasoline and therefore pollute. They get around all of that by giving money to Elon Musk.
And the thing that really, really bothers me about that is the fact that the government and all of these, global warming people want to act like internal combustion engines are, polluting the environment more than electric cars, which to me, from what I've seen, it's not really the case. Like electric cars aren't this, great invention that is going to save the world from global warming. Those lithium that has to be mined. The actual batteries and all of the car parts are being transported with gasoline. Yeah. It's so contradictory. It's so hypocritical.
To say nothing of the environmental destruction that comes from lithium mining and the child slavery and these other horrific things. Millennials and Zoomers stopped buying diamonds because they're all blood diamonds. There's horrific violence surrounding them. There's slavery. There's theft. It's a horrifically immoral industry, and all of that same stuff surrounds lithium.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me and Nikki are both engaged, and we both didn't get diamonds.
That's true.
I'm married. Sorry.
You're married. That's right. Congrats. Yeah. Most of the people I know under the age of 40 don't have any interest in diamonds whatsoever because they're just blood diamonds, and they know they're blood diamonds, and they don't want to contribute to that industry.
Plus, there's just they just lied to people to say that they were the prettiest. They're not the prettiest. I just don't understand. They're not the prettiest.
What's not the prettiest?
Gems, sorry. They're
even...
not
Beauty's an eye of the beholder.
But it's just why
that's true.
It was this one is way more expensive than this one that looks just like it but red. It's
my big issue with it was you're supposed to do this.
There's that too, yeah.
It's no, I'll do whatever I want.
There's all sorts of problems. Well, I mean, that's marriage in general, right?
Yeah.
Right.
However, diamonds, they do have this unique problem where they're just surrounded by blood and death and corruption and slavery and immoral things. And so is lithium mining. And you can't support... It's strange to me that people out there actually reject diamonds because they're blood diamonds, but at the same time they support electric vehicles which use lithium, which is every bit as bloody and immoral and economic and environmentally damaging as diamond mining ever was.
Yeah, because people just go based off of what they're told.
Yeah.
People, unfortunately, it seems like it's hard for a lot of people to think critically and kind of look into things and research things themselves. Like, people actually get shamed. And, we saw this a lot during COVID when people were researching things themselves and digging into things themselves, they were being shamed. Oh, you think you're a doctor? You think you're a scientist?
You found that on the internet? It's just like, you probably learned lots of things on the internet.
In newsflash, your doctor Googles things.
Right. My doctor does it right in front of me.
Most of the things I've learned in my life, I learned from the internet. 603-283-6160. We're going to talk about Twitter 2.0 and whether or not Elon Musk can save or destroy Twitter. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized that conclusion, reasserting that it was a Russian missile, something the Kremlin denies. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to discuss the issue in New York. While in Brussels, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has also backed the Polish investigation.
We have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president, who faces multiple investigations, is unfit to serve. Trump threw his hat into the race on Tuesday night, giving a speech in front of 450 of his closest supporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, from where FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
As Trump made his announcement, President Joe Biden released a video attacking the former president on abortion, the economy, and the Capitol riots, claiming Trump failed America. This was expected from Democrats, but Republicans are also distancing themselves, some outright blaming Trump for the GOP's poor showing in the midterms. Rupert Murdoch's conservative paper, The New York Post, which was once a Trump cheerleader, didn't even mention his 2024 bid on its front page. And his own daughter, Ivanka, skipped the event, saying she's steering clear of politics for now.
Twitter boss Elon Musk has given his staff an ultimatum, either to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. Employees have until the end of Thursday to make their decision. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
Twitter employees have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday to decide whether they'll stay at the company. In an email sent to staff on Tuesday evening, with a subject line, "A fork in the road," Musk outlines how the social media company, going forward, would want to succeed in an increasingly competitive world and how everybody needed to be extremely hardcore. And then the ultimatum, to which staff needed to click yes on the provided link if they wanted to stay. Twitter employees who decide not to stay will receive 3-month severance, according to the memo.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail at the latest evidence of growing Chinese public anger over the country's implementation of a strict zero-COVID policy. In the country where the pandemic originated, the last few weeks have seen incidents of Chinese citizens rebelling against lockdowns and curbs on their freedom of movement. Hundreds of staff fled a Foxconn factory rather than endure the restrictions there, and this week crowds of people in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou forced their way through COVID barriers in a fresh example of public anger over COVID curbs. Jim Lindsay of the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations says Beijing is between a rock and a hard place.
The Chinese are waiting around until they can develop their own vaccine, their own mRNA vaccine. I should note that they have been unwilling to take Western mRNA vaccines like Pfizer, Moderna. I imagine the Chinese state has a sufficient surveillance and coercive apparatus to make those shutdowns last a very long time. But Chinese citizens are like citizens everywhere else. They want to lead their own lives. Lockdowns are very, very hard to deal with. And there's going to be growing pressure on the Chinese government to find some way out of this cul-de-sac that they have put themselves in.
Some analysts expected restrictions to be loosened after President Xi secured a third term in power last month, but that has not happened. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, the United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president is unfit to serve. And Twitter boss Elon Musk is giving his staff an ultimatum to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Captain Actual America is overweight and hopelessly in debt, and the Richie Rich comic strip introduces a new, even gayer character. As if you needed another reason to remain in your isolated and socially degenerative cocoon, this is the Onion Week in Review, Comics Edition. Sources confirmed Tuesday that the Comic Book and Sci-Fi Expo Comic-Con was once again marred by BullyCon, an increasingly popular event held in the same convention space. Now in its 5th year, BullyCon reportedly drew more than 125,000 tormentors from across the nation, all of whom were bent on beating up and torturing those attending the many comic book, television, and movie panels at Comic-Con.
When this got started, it was just a couple of friends who wanted to beat the shit out of some Joss Whedon fans, but now there are thousands of us ruining Walking Dead panels, taunting Harry Potter nerds, and really making some video gamers' lives completely miserable. I don't necessarily need to travel to San Diego to slap a copy of Spider-Man out of some pussy's hands, but there's something really special about coming together with people who dig the same sort of cruelty you do.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in. That's 603-283-6160. And on this live Wednesday edition, you've got me, Aria, Nikki, and Bonnie on the show. And you know, we had a Mastodon server before. It was cool. And I still don't know how cool it really is, but we did. It's over at social.freetalklive.com. We had it before Elon Musk purchased Twitter, and we've had it, I think, for going on 2 years now.
Before Trump. Isn't that the one Trump has?
Trump does have a Mastodon server. Truth Social is a Mastodon instance, but it's disfederated from all other Mastodon instances, and you cannot federate with it, which is sad because I would like to be able to follow Donald Trump, and I could do that using Mastodon and using the infrastructure that it has laid out, except that the Truth Social has been edited so much so that it's not federated with any other Mastodon servers, and they probably did that intentionally. Well, they wanted it to be its own special, unique thing, right? And Donald Trump probably doesn't even know what Mastodon is. He probably thinks that it's their own unique server that's unlike any other out there. He probably has no idea that it's just a heavily modified version of something that already exists out there. He probably thinks that it was built custom designed for him and his needs, and it obviously was not. Social.freetalklive.com if you want to hang out with us over there. It's really cool, and you can hang out with a number of the hosts there, including myself and Ian. Bonnie, you're on there. Nikki, I think you're on there. Are
Mastodon?
You on there? Yeah.
I'm actually not.
You should. It's a good time. And we have a character limit there of 1776, which is a bit better than you get on Twitter. I think you could set it up to 5,000. I don't remember exactly what the limit was. It's pretty high. You can express yourself completely on our Mastodon server. And I mean that. You can say whatever you want on our Mastodon server, as long as it's not, flagrantly illegal, and as long as it's not just spamming. Social.freetalklive.com. We've never blocked anyone who wasn't a spammer or a bot. No one has ever been banned from our social media server for saying something that we didn't like. And it will never happen. So check it out, social.freetalklive.com, where you can actually speak your opinions freely without fear of being punished and kicked off the server. And we have faced consequences from this. We have been disfederated from some other servers because we have people on our server who others are like, this person is racist, he's a Nazi, he's misogynistic or transphobic or homophobic or whatever. We're like, yeah, we don't care. This homophobic person has the right to free speech, and they have the right to express themselves freely. And if you disagree with them, you have the right to say that. And whichever one of you is more correct will win this little discussion. But that's the way this should be handled.
Yeah, and if someone's homophobic or racist or any sort of bigot, I want to know about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want them to be like a closeted extremist. It's like, no, speak your mind so I know not to talk to you or associate with you.
Absolutely. Let's go to the phones. We have Sarah on the line from New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that I did get sick about 3 days ago. And and I think
sick
I
with
have
what?
no idea if it was, whether it could have been the flu, or COVID, or I don't know, the cold or ASB. What do they have going around? I came down with something.
Okay, so
and
you got some sort of sickness, and by your own admission, it could have been the flu, it could have been a cold, it could have been COVID. You don't know.
3 days ago. Are you better now?
That's the whole thing, that I got rid of it in 3 days.
That's what I was going to say.
Sounds like
better.
a cold.
Sounds like not a big deal.
The thing is that I'm a firm believer in flu shot. At least I got that for this year. So weren't you saying that you came down with a flu really bad and it scared you?
I have never gotten the flu before, and I have never gotten a flu shot, and it seems that people get the flu shot, get the flu, and then they're like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad because I got the flu shot. Meanwhile, people that don't get the flu shot usually don't get it at all.
Right, but I've never had a flu shot either, ever, and the one time I got sick really bad and it was like 2 weeks, but it was like a cold that lasted like 2 weeks, and people were saying maybe it was the flu, but I wasn't like throwing up or any of that other stuff. I don't think it was.
So
I think it's just like COVID maybe.
To me, if you have a strong immune system, like that's what people should be focusing on, like, your microbiome, eating healthy, making sure your vitamin D levels and your iron levels are up there, like making sure, like, eating well, drinking tons of water, exercising, making sure you're healthy and your immune system is strong. And that way you don't really get sick. So when you get exposed to the flu, to colds, to anything, your body is able to fight it off. And it even works with things like cancer. Because if your immune system can flag the cancer cells and take care of it, then it won't progress. But when your immune system is weakened, when it slides past your body's immune system, that's when people get cancer and other diseases.
Right, but the flu shot, I was told that it was going to be a really hard season, so I did get myself to get the flu shot and help. But anyway, and then one of the advice that I got was you want a mega dose on those key vitamins that you mentioned, vitamin D and vitamin C, and then selenium and zinc. Those 3 minerals and vitamins, and I did exactly that. I had it on hand. So with my orange juice, I took 3 capsules of vitamin C with that. And then when I had another meal, I took 3.
Okay, Sarah, I don't need to know about your medical regimen. I'm curious, if you have all of these solutions to getting sick and they worked, why did you get the vaccine again?
The flu shot? Because, they do help. But
why do you say it helps?
It's like
she said she got sick, but she said she got the flu shot, and she said it helped. It's exactly what Nikki was saying. Like, I would never say that it helped if I got the flu, because I never get the flu. Like, if I got the flu right after getting a flu shot, I'd be like,
well, she
what the
doesn't
heck
know
is
that
going
she
on?
had the flu. She just got she could have had a cold for all she knows. She doesn't know what she had.
Yeah, I don't know what I had. I don't know.
So why do you say the flu shot worked?
But the thing is, it could have been one of the strands of the flu. How do I know? So then.
But that doesn't mean it worked. Just because you're ignorant doesn't mean it worked. You understand that, right?
To me, it does help.
No. That's
I hate people, or not hate people. I don't hate Sarah, but I don't like it when people act like there isn't such thing as firm reality, because then you have people like Sarah, like, to me, blah, blah, blah. She says that all the time.
No, it's either fact or it's not.
You'll tell her something that's just a fact. Maybe in this situation isn't it, but she always says, yeah, well, to me, communism works. Like, it's just like, it doesn't matter what it means to you.
Yeah, Sarah, there's no basis for you to...
I came down with a flu, and I had...
No, you didn't. You got sick for 3 days. You don't know what you had. And if you did get the flu, why the hell did you get the flu shot if it wasn't going to prevent you from getting the flu? What was the point of it?
It's supposed to look at it. If it's the exact strain, it'll fight it off like I did in a couple of days. But if it's a similar strand, for some reason, if you don't come down with it as harder.
No.
And that happened to me before.
You were only sick for 3 days, though.
Literally not how it works.
Well, the 3 days things makes me think it's not the flu, right? Because doesn't that last a long time?
It could. I mean, it depends on the strain.
Well,
of
not
flu
if you get the
and
flu shot. Then it only lasts 3 days.
And it depends on your body's ability to fight it off and how healthy you are and all of these other things.
Yeah, I don't know.
But my dad always gets sick from getting the flu shot. He always has.
Yeah.
Well, probably not anymore because he's out of the army. But he used to always have to get the flu shot, like they make you, and he'd always get sick. And none of the rest of us would.
A lot of people do, because they have the attenuated virus in there, so it's like a little piece of it that's weakened. But it does affect, like, some people, it doesn't really affect them, and some people it does.
I just feel so bad for Sarah and the weird little world that she lives in that's so detached from reality, where she's like, I got sick for 3 days, and I don't know that I had the flu, but I believe that the flu shot worked.
Well, I'm going to call into a radio show and tell them that I got sick for 3 days and what I took with my orange juice.
And that's the worst part, Bonnie, is the fact that she thinks that it's important, that it should be said on national radio.
She just wants to talk, right? And I'm fine with that to an extent, because we get to have these somewhat interesting conversations where she reveals that she has absolutely no basis for her faith in the flu vaccine, but she gets it anyway. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
gold, and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals ship fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold back. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
Free Talk Live.
I was in the military for 31 years, and I hear all this talk about the draft and defending freedom and all that. From my perspective, as I'm ex-Navy, I never defended anybody's freedom, American or anybody else's. I was a hired thug for the U.S. government. It's just propaganda put out by the government, and it's we're the best and the brightest, and all of that just makes me ill because of all the millions of people that have died because the American military is all over the world. There's nobody attacking us. I mean, our government is like every other government. It's run by degenerate psychopaths that are power mad, and I have no clue what goes on inside their mind, but it's nothing good.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You can take control of the airwaves and talk about whatever is important to you. 603-283-6160 if you want to do that. That's 603-283-6160. And with you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And there's a lot of developing news that it may or may not be worth talking about. And I sort of want to talk about the missile launch. The missiles that hit Poland yesterday.
Didn't they officially decide it was Ukrainian missiles?
Yes, and that's been the fascinating thing about this, right? NATO was up in arms. People on the internet were up in arms. They were like, it's time. NATO has to declare war on Russia. We cannot allow Poland to be struck with missiles. Are you kidding? We have to act. And
Surprise!
Then it's like, oh, they were Ukrainian missiles.
And then they totally changed their tune, and they're like, well,
No, but they're still saying that we need to go to war with Russia over it. They said that
they did because
ultimately it's Russia's fault.
Yes, if you listen to the breaks here, I heard one earlier. Some NATO general or someone was talking about how these missiles were fired by Ukraine, but it's still ultimately Russia's fault.
Oh, I thought an American person said that. That's what I thought would be so crazy.
I think the head of NATO is probably an American general. I mean, NATO is America. I mean, they like to pretend it's not, but like NATO, 90% of the military power in NATO is the United States, and maybe another 6 to 7% is the United Kingdom or in Germany combined, and the rest of it's everyone else combined. But NATO is the United States for all intents and purposes. Without the United States, NATO's toothless. So, but I don't know exactly who the person was who said it. I think he was someone in NATO. He may have been an American. I don't know. I don't really care. He's a warmonger. And those tend to be American, or they could have been in NATO. For all intents and purposes, I guess it's the same thing.
I didn't know that it was American. I didn't even read something. I saw someone tweeting about it.
Yeah, fair point. I don't know who it was. I'm just assuming he was a NATO guy. But regardless of who he was, that's the argument they're making, is that even though this was actually Ukraine that fired the missiles, it was actually Russia's fault. And I mentioned this earlier on social media. It was one of my more serious posts on social media, which means it lasted maybe 3 whole sentences, and it wasn't really worth discussing. It was just a throwaway remark about how yesterday everyone was all up in arms and ready to declare war on Russia because we can't allow our ally to be hit with missiles. But then it's Ukraine. And if you follow their reasoning, then the NATO and the United States should today declare war on Ukraine, right? Ukraine fired these missiles. Ukraine's not in NATO. And I had one person come out and say, yes, but see, the thing is, it was an accident if Ukraine did this.
Accidentally killed innocent farmers.
There is no accidental missile launches.
Well, they intentionally launched the missiles, but they did not mean, it was an accident that they hit Poland, certainly. And it was an accident that they killed people in Poland. I will give them that. But it was all, if they were Russian missiles,
even if it was an accident,
it was still an accident if it was Russia or Ukraine, was the point that I was making.
Well, and just the mental gymnastics that they're doing to, again, blame this on Russia, which I get if... Like, I can kind of get what they're trying to do.
Well, there wouldn't be, Ukraine wouldn't be firing missiles if it wasn't for Russia.
I kind of get where they're going.
But they would be, because they were shelling the Donbass region.
Were they?
Well,
there's been so much
that could
that
be,
I don't remember the specifics.
I guess that could be propaganda, but that's what the story has been.
It's not entirely impossible, but yesterday, Conan and I remarked about how, for all we knew, because Monday we played a video from a former CIA agent who admitted that all the CIA had to do was go to journalists and say, hey, Russia fired some missiles into Poland and they killed 2 people. They killed 2 farmers. And 70 to 80% of journalists would just print that story.
Yeah.
Inside sources have revealed, and then the next thing you know, the mainstream media is calling for war against Russia because now they've attacked Poland. And
not to mention the people. The people are like, hey, I read this in New York Times. It must be true. So
yes, completely caught up in the propaganda and sharing it and spreading the fear, spreading the lies, and none of it's based in truth whatsoever. We talked about how, for all I know, there is no Ukraine. There is no war. It's just all propaganda.
And that's the way I'm starting to feel. I mean, like, I believe in Australia and Ukraine. Sure. But if I don't see something with my own eyes, I'm sure there's a war going on, but it's hard for me to be super invested in it and to actually, and this is going to sound kind of cold-hearted, it's hard for me to care because I'm not witnessing it with my own eyes. The only way I'm hearing about this is news sources and propaganda and, like social media. So I don't know that do I know that missiles hit Poland? No.
No, the closest I've come to being able to independently verify any of this was Galina, who is a Ukrainian caller who occasionally calls into the show. She called last night, but I don't want to just straight up ask, hey, is there actually a war going on?
Yeah, because it does sound kind of, it doesn't.
Plus, I feel like she was nervous about saying anything that possibly could sound pro-Putin. So she's in an awkward position because one time she called a second time and said, I just want to read it and restate that I wasn't saying anything pro-Putin. And we were like, what? We never thought you said anything pro-Putin. So it's probably like her friends.
Her life is probably in danger if she says something that's too... I mean, Zelensky did outlaw the opposition party. He is a tyrant, and he is oppressing people in Ukraine. And if the stories are true, people who support Russia are being, caught and killed. However, I tend to believe that there really is a Ukraine and there really is a Russia and Australia. A certain level of skepticism in regard to the media is warranted, but some is too far. But
like we were saying in one of the breaks, like Nikki saw a thing that said the 8 billionth person was born. And I literally don't believe that there's 8 million people. Well, it's not that I don't believe it. It's okay, I don't believe it. Sorry. I don't believe it, but that doesn't mean that if somebody showed me proof, I'd be like, what? Because I believe it's actually 6 million. Not anything like that.
Yeah.
Billion.
No, and
billion.
I know, and I agree with you on that.
Right. Like, there's no way to know that, so I don't just, like, for no reason believe it. I'm not just, or the reason being, because they printed this.
Yeah, because the Daily Mail, it was in the Daily Mail, so it must be true.
Right.
Well, there's certainly no way that they could know that this person was the 8 billionth person born.
It doesn't make sense where they were like sitting there waiting. They're like, 7 billion, whatever.
So many people somewhere on the earth die in the moment she was born. Like, there would just be no reason or no possible way.
No, there's people dying every second, and there's undocumented people being born in like Cambodia and Laos and
in America. People are free birthing all the time, and people are not getting birth certificates. It's less common in America, but. You don't have to get a birth certificate. You don't have to get your kid a social security card. You don't have to report them on the census. I mean, you're supposed to, but it's just physically impossible to know how many people.
Exactly. And you only got to be off by one free birth to not be the 8 billionth.
Yeah, it's just silly propaganda, just like the ghost of Kiev. Coming up, we're going to talk about this rocket which hit Poland and was evidently fired by Ukraine, and the mental gymnastics that people are doing that, it was unacceptable when Russia did it, but now that it was Ukraine, well, it was still somehow Russia.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The United States says it has full confidence in the Polish government's assessment that an explosion in Poland that killed 2 people was caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized that conclusion, reasserting that it was a Russian missile, something the Kremlin denies. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is meeting to discuss the issue in New York. While in Brussels, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has also backed the Polish investigation.
We have no indication that Russia is preparing offensive military actions against NATO. Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Democrats and even some Republicans are firing back at Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid, claiming the former president, who faces multiple investigations, is unfit to serve. Trump threw his hat into the race on Tuesday night, giving a speech in front of 450 of his closest supporters at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, from where FSN's Tony Waterman reports.
As Trump made his announcement, President Joe Biden released a video attacking the former president on abortion, the economy, and the Capitol riots, claiming Trump failed America. This was expected from Democrats, but Republicans are also distancing themselves, some outright blaming Trump for the GOP's poor showing in the midterms. Rupert Murdoch's conservative paper, The New York Post, which was once a Trump cheerleader, didn't even mention his 2024 bid on its front page. And his own daughter, Ivanka, skipped the event, saying she's steering clear of politics for now.
Twitter boss Elon Musk has given his staff an ultimatum, either to prepare for work that he says will be hardcore or leave the company. Employees have until the end of Thursday to make their decision. Eversense Jody Jacobs has more.
Twitter employees have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday to decide whether they'll stay at the company. In an email sent to staff on Tuesday evening, with the subject line, "A fork in the road," Musk outlines how the social media company, going forward, would want to succeed in an increasingly competitive world and how everybody needed to be extremely hardcore. And then the ultimatum, to which staff needed to click yes on the provided link if they wanted to stay. Twitter employees who decide not to stay will receive 3 months severance, according to the memo.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in. Again, the number is 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And I want to say thank you to Tim. Tim is tonight's amplifier. This means that Tim is a member of the AMPS program. You can find that at amps.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. So if you value Free Talk Live, if you value the ideas of liberty, being on close to 200 radio stations, having its own podcast being promoted, being on SoundCloud, Spotify, the Apple iTunes Store, whatever it's called, and Odyssey, I don't know why I was blanking on the name, Odyssey, DLive, all of these other places, you might consider joining the AMPS program. It's amps.freetalklive.com. That's the best way to show your support for the show. And it does come with a number of cool little perks. But really, if you join the AMPS program, it should be because you value the ideas of liberty and you want to help us reach a larger audience. That's amps.freetalklive.com, like Tim here has done. It only costs $5 per month. That's what gets you in. And you do get an AMP-only version of the podcast. And it's the full version of the show. And you get it almost within minutes of the actual broadcast of the show. So if you're not an amplifier and you're waiting around for the podcast, you could wait almost an entire day to get the podcast version of the show. However, if you're an amplifier, you get it that night, usually within a few minutes. amps.freetalklive.com if you want to join the program. That's amps.freetalklive.com. Again, there's other perks, but if you join, it should be because you want to help out the show and you want to show your support. That's amps.freetalklive.com. We're talking about these missiles here that were launched by Ukraine, and I heard it during the break just now. It's definitely not an American guy. His accent's way too thick to be an American. He's some NATO dude talking about how this is ultimately still Russia's fault because they're the ones who caused this war to exist. And because they caused this war to exist, anything, therefore, that happens within this war is Russia's fault. Well, it's like blaming the dropping of nuclear weapons on Japan on Germany. It's Germany's fault that the United States had to drop those nuclear weapons. If it wasn't for Germany, there wouldn't have been a war, and then there wouldn't have been these nukes in the first place. That's bad reasoning.
That's a great point. But also, like, it's only Russia's the one that started by invading the other country. But if you take, like, because it's all propaganda, I don't know what's true. But if you're looking at it from Russia's point of view, they would probably say that it's actually Ukraine's fault because Ukraine was doing this stuff that made them invade.
That's a really good point. But you're not allowed to, I mean, you are allowed still to say that. But we haven't gotten yet to a point in society where you're just not allowed to dispute these things, but no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to believe you.
Or they'll call me like a Putin propagandist for saying, I don't know what the truth is, but if you look at it from this perspective, this could be the truth.
Yeah, they immediately discard that. Anything you say that's not pro-Ukraine, it just gets they don't even hear it. And the reality is that Ukraine is full of Nazis. And I don't know what percentage of Nazis the Ukrainian army is, but it's more than zero. And they're open Nazis. Like, I know there are Nazis in the U.S. military too. Like, we all know that. But the Ukrainian military has people who are open Nazis. They had an entire battalion of Nazis called...
It's so weird because there's so many Jews from Ukraine.
Well, there were Jews from Germany, you know?
There were, yeah, but I doubt there were too many Jews in the German army during World War II.
Oh, yeah, no, of course not, but
I mean, I think the modern Nazis have evolved beyond just, we have to kill all the Jews. I don't think that's their talking point anymore. They're more nationalist than anything else, as far as I can tell. It's America first and foremost, or Ukraine first and foremost. So they don't have an issue with the Ukrainian Jews, probably. I don't know. I'm not a Nazi. I don't even want to attempt to understand how these people work. But the Jews were only an enemy for Nazi Germany and the propaganda of the Nazi German regime. Right? They needed an enemy, and the Jews were the ones they picked for that. And it was a convenient enemy for them, but there's nothing inherent to Nazism that causes them to hate Jewish people.
I just thought that's what it was, honestly.
I don't think so. I don't know. And I doubt that anyone out there listening would be able to tell us. But if you do know, give us a call, 603-283-6160. I used to hang out in a lot of Nazi Telegram chats. And this was primarily to not interfere, but this was because I'm friends with Chris Cantwell, who... hooray, has finally been released from prison.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher Cantwell, congratulations from here on Free Talk Live. I hope you're no longer a racist or a bigot. I'm sure you still are. However, if you have moved past that bigotry, the world would be a better place. But either way, congrats on being free, no longer being a political prisoner of the U.S. government. So I used to be involved in all of these Nazi groups. I was not involved with any of them. I was a member of Telegram chats that were run by Nazis. And this wasn't because I'm a Nazi or a white supremacist or even a racist. It was because I like knowing what my enemies are saying, first of all. And my mere presence in these groups caused so many problems. People would quit when they found out that I was...
That's awesome.
If you go to my SoundCloud, just Aria DeMezzo SoundCloud or whatever, there are actual excerpts where because they used a lot of voice chats, and I would record their voice chats onto my computer and upload it online because some of it's just priceless.
Yeah, it's like you can't make this stuff up.
No, they're just freaking out because there's this trans person here, and the rest of the Nazis aren't freaking out about it, and it's great. One of them was so upset. It was like, everyone, you're just asking, the language is not tolerable for FCC radio, so I obviously can't play this, but it's like, you're all talking to this person who calls itself a she-male, and you're asking them questions like, this is normal, and what is going on? Have I gone crazy? Have you gone crazy? Who has gone crazy here? And it's just several minutes of this, and it was like, look, dude, calm down. Aria is here because Aria being here hurts Chris Cantwell, who was their enemy because they're Nazis, so they're constantly turning against each other. And it's great to watch Nazis turn against one another. And that was why one of the primary reasons I think Christopher Cantwell should never have been thrown into prison. For one, it was the U.S. government taking the side of a Nazi against another Nazi. All the people out there celebrating Christopher Cantwell going to prison were Nazi sympathizers. And they had the audacity to accuse me of being a Nazi sympathizer. When no, the, quote, victim of Christopher Cantwell was a Nazi. So if you're taking that person's side, you are sympathizing with a Nazi. And you are, by definition, a Nazi sympathizer. I wasn't taking Christopher Cantwell's side in this, or his alleged victim side in this. I was saying, look, they're not hurting each other. There's no violence here. They're just destroying each other's image and destroying each other's careers. They're causing fragmentation in their own political movement. They're causing it conflict and they're causing it to be ineffective, let them continue doing that. It's only helping us to have these two Nazis arguing with each other instead of working together. The FBI disagreed. They were like, no, we need to take one of these Nazis off the board. That way they can be more effective. The Nazis can be more effective because there's less division in their ranks now.
Less competition.
Yes. So that's what was going on with there. But still, Christopher Cantwell, no longer a political prisoner. I'm thrilled to hear that. He never should have been in prison in the first place for effectively
saying words.
Yes, saying the equivalent of what 12-year-olds say in Call of Duty online. I'm sure Matt Roach, who's on the show with us on Thursday night, he plays Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I'm sure he has heard and said worse things while playing Call of Duty online than Christopher Cantwell did.
It's crazy.
But it's Call of Duty at that point. So, what are you going to do, right? But because Christopher Cantwell was a Nazi, it stopped being acceptable and he had to go to prison. 603-283-6160. There's more coming up. It is Free Talk Live.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and as always, you are invited to join us, 603-283-6160. And if we don't get to you tonight, you're invited to hang out with us on our social media server. You can find that at social.freetalklive.com. Again, that's social.freetalklive.com. With you tonight, it's Aria.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And coming up in just over 6 months, I believe, is... 7 months is Fork Fest number 7, the 7th annual Fork Fest. All you have to do is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground from June the 15th through the 18th, and that gets you in. There's no ticket cost. The tickets can't sell out or any of that other stuff. So check it out at forkfest.party. That's fork, like the fork that you eat with. It's a cryptocurrency joke about how cryptocurrencies fork from one another, and Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and it's a really fun time. The Porcupine Freedom Festival is probably going to sell out if it hasn't already. It has sold out 2 years in a row, and it's probably going to sell out again this year. But Fork Fest, as far as we know, won't sell out. So check it out, forkfest.party. And there's also links there to like a Telegram chat, a Matrix chat, and some other places where you can hang out with other Fork Festers, all on an unofficial website, because nothing about Fork Fest is official. It's whatever you want it to be. Forkfest.party is that website. Let's go to the phones. We have Tom on the line from West Virginia. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, our local station here in Charleston, West Virginia, WVTS, recently added another hour of Free Talk Live.
Well, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, maybe, I'm late in calling. It was maybe the last month or so.
Yeah.
It's we've always got the third hour here only for many. I think I've listened for like 15 years now.
Wow, thank you.
And we get the whole Saturday. We've always got the whole Saturday show. So they've added the second hour at midnight through the week, and I think they play something on Sunday at midnight too.
Very cool. It was always surprising to me to hear that, some stations only receive half the show or 1 hour of the show, or I could understand like only the Saturday edition, or only once a week or twice a week, or maybe 3 or 4 times a week, whatever. But to only receive part of the show was a surprise to me, to learn that some stations do that. Obviously some do, because they only have an hour they need to fill or 2 hours they need to fill. But I'm glad to hear that you're receiving more of the program there in West Virginia. So thank you so much for the call tonight, Tom, and thank you for the update. I have not looked into the affiliate situation in a long time. I know there's a lot going on with the affiliates, and that's why I'm just sort of stepping back and waiting on all of it to resolve, because there's a huge change coming in the radio industry within the next, I think it's on December 31st. All of radio stations have to move over from one system to another system. It's all very confusing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to obviously affect all of our affiliates. And now we're no longer with our previous satellite provider, and now we're back with GCN, which is Genesis Communications. So a lot's happening, and it's just not a good time for me to be all in the thick of it, seeing what's going on. But it's good to hear that things are still happening that are positive developments for Free Talk Live. Of course, we are always adding more radio stations. Occasionally we lose some. We lost a radio station recently that they weren't happy because of the trans co-host, apparently, which is amazing to me, because I don't talk about trans issues very much, right? I probably talk about them least among all the people on the show.
They specifically said the people here in conservative, I don't remember what it was, in Indiana.
Okay, bye.
Don't appreciate that. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's like...
And I don't appreciate conservative.
Right, we've said that like twice this night.
Well, it's just amazing to me that my mere presence was enough to upset them, even though if you're listening to the show, you probably won't even know that I'm trans. And it's not something that gets brought up every episode, but it was enough that it legitimately bothered these people. So sucks to be them. I can't imagine being that much of a snowflake.
Well, today I got so annoyed because on Twitter, there's this girl who posts some stuff that's like good. She's like liberty-ish. But today she posted like women already had to fight men to just get a place in society. Now we have to fight trans people just to speak.
Do you though?
And I was like, what could she possibly be talking about? And I looked at it and there were these women in New York that had a protest and the signs led me to believe they were saying stuff like, let women have their own sports teams and trans people have their own sports teams and protect young girls from becoming trans. So that's what these people were protesting, and some trans people were yelling back at them.
Yeah, I saw this. And
I have not seen this.
It's unfortunate because I feel like there are some trans people and some people in the LGBTQ community who are literally psycho.
Oh yeah.
But it's not even, because they're gay or trans, it's because they're like super liberal and they're just feeding into all of that weird subculture. Yeah, it has nothing to do with them being trans. They're just crazy. And I think there's enough trans people that are like that it gives the whole community or like everybody that fits into that category, it gives them all a bad name.
It was like, how crazy do you have to be to care enough to go out and say, exclude trans people from this thing? The main thing...
Yeah, because of these two people did something.
Yeah.
Well, the sports issue, it's a complicated one, right? Because testosterone is a performance-enhancing drug. I don't have a solution, though, and I don't like the idea
of you're on testosterone, but that's the one they don't complain about. I never see people complain about female to male.
That's because if you're male to female, your body naturally produces testosterone in larger amounts than it does for genetic women, right? I mean, whether I'm trans or not, my body is producing testosterone, and that's going to give me, not so much these days, but in the past, it would certainly have given me an unfair advantage if I was still kickboxing or running races or whatever against people who did not have that. Testosterone is a performance-enhancing drug. And male to female trans people do have higher amounts of testosterone than genetic girls. However, you do have people who are XXY who have higher levels of testosterone, and you do have the one girl out of some African country who was in the Olympics or whatever.
She didn't know she was like...
She wasn't XXY, it turned out. She just had high levels of testosterone, and they wanted to ban her from competing because of that. And it's like, there is no good solution here.
But there was also somebody, I thought you were going to mention someone else. Like, this was so many years ago, I don't know any details, but I heard about it on the news when I was like a kid, that there was this person that they like demanded she go get tests, and she found out that I don't know what you'd call this, she like had testes that were inside and never came out, and she also had female organs.
So she was like a hermaphrodite?
Yeah. And so she found out because they were like, she's too good and she might be, she has to go get tested.
Yeah, I don't have a good, I don't know why, because I'm trans, people expect me to have a good answer for this sort of thing in the first place. But like, I don't know. And I don't think we're ever going to come up with a universally accepted answer that makes everyone happy.
But does it mean that right now in this time in history, women have to fight trans people even to be able to speak?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't, and there
it's ridiculous.
Like, I was in a natural birth community, and a lot of those women were so anti-trans people, and I feel like for some reason they think that they're constantly being attacked, like just the existence of trans people is an attack on their womanhood, and it's really not.
Exactly
like, it's
what they think.
It's really just everyone's trying to exist and live a happy life, and for some reason other people get offended by the existence of other people. It makes no sense to me. It's like you could just, focus on yourself and thrive in your own life, but for some reason, these women just feel the need to be attacked.
It's a universal problem with people, like, not just women who hate trans people. That is exactly why they're doing it, by the way. It's because they feel attacked and they feel like they feel invalidated for no reason. And it's a universal problem, though. Like, people who think that billionaires existing is hurting them, like, as if they were ever going to get off their ass and, like, become a billionaire ever. It's just the issue that makes basically like status that starts in the same reason.
Exactly, and it's the same thing like Democrats and Republicans do this, like just the existence of conservatives or the existence of liberal. Like I see a lot of like libertarian and conservative people that are like, the left, liberals, all the time, they're ruining my life. And it's like, no, they're not. You're letting them ruin your life.
Excellent points. I could not possibly have said it better. What bothers me is these people who they don't give a damn about beauty pageants. They don't give a damn about women's sports. Your average WNBA basketball player makes about $100,000 a year. No one is watching the WNBA. No one cares about women's sports until there's a trans person involved. You don't care about women's sports. You care about being a bigot. Social.freetalklive.com if you want to hang out with us. It's been Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.